Vyamish Reneva Vakyena Budhim Moha Yashiva Me Tadekam Vadanishchitya Yena Shreno Ham Apnu Yam. My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Equivocal means it's not clear. You're saying one thing and you're saying something else. Right? Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. Okay, Arjuna's pressing Krishna to say, look, tell me exactly what you mean. Don't beat around the bush, as they say in English. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the previous chapter, as a prelude to the Bhagavad Gita, many different paths were explained, such as Sankhya Yoga, Buddha Yoga, control of the senses by intelligence, work without fruit of desire, and the position of the neophyte. This was all presented unsystematically. A more organized outline of the path would be necessary for action and understanding. Arjuna therefore wanted to clear up these apparently confusing matters so that any common man could accept them without misinterpretation. Very good point. Although Krishna had no intention of confusing Arjuna by any jugglery of words, Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness either by inertia, meaning by not doing anything, or by active service. In other words, by his questions, he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita. Very good. Okay, we'll go to text 3. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Lokesmin Dvi Vida Nishta, Pura Prokta Mayanaga, Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, meaning material, physical speculation, and others by devotional service. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the second chapter, verse 39, the Lord explained two kinds of procedures, namely Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. In this verse, the Lord explains the same more clearly. Sankhya Yoga, or the analytical study of the nature of spirit and matter, is the subject matter for persons who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy. The other class of men work in Krishna consciousness, as it is explained in the 61st verse of the second chapter. The Lord has, in the 61st verse of the second chapter, the Lord has explained also in the 39th verse that by working by the principles of Buddha Yoga or Krishna consciousness, one can be relieved from the bonds of action. And furthermore, there is no flaw in the process. The same principle is more clearly explained in the 61st verse, that this Buddha Yoga or Krishna consciousness is to depend entirely on the Supreme, meaning Krishna, or more specifically on Krishna. And in this way, all the senses can be brought under control very easily. Therefore, both the yogas both the yogas are interdependent as religion and philosophy. Religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. The ultimate goal is Krishna, because the philosophers who are also sincerely searching after the absolute truth come in the end to Krishna consciousness. This is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita. The whole process is to understand the real position of the self in relation to the superself. The indirect process is philosophical speculation by which gradually one may come to the point of Krishna consciousness. And the other process is directly connecting with everything in Krishna consciousness. Of these two, the path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on purifying the senses by a philosophical process. Krishna consciousness is itself the purifying process. And by the direct method of devotional service, it is simultaneously easy and sublime. Very good points. Very, very good points. In other words, it's saying, look, don't waste your time in taking a roundabout way, studying philosophy and so forth. Better just take up devotional service and you'll achieve all the purposes that will lead to pure Krishna consciousness. Okay, well, let me look at this verse again. The verse says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. Okay, so obviously we know that the speculative process is not really something that is good. And maybe over a very, very long time, many, many lifetimes, one may arrive at an understanding of Krishna consciousness. But why go by such a long process? It could take millions of years when the direct process is being emphasized by Krishna. Already in the second chapter, verse 39, Krishna said, thus far I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results, O son of Pritha. Then, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of work. So that's what Krishna consciousness is, working without fruitive results. And whatever result there is, you offer it to Krishna. Okay, why? Because we are not proprietors. We don't own anything. Everything in this universe belongs to Krishna, including our bodies, our mind, everything. So whatever work we do, we should offer the result of that work to Krishna. Obviously, he's going to offer something back to us. It's called prasadam. Prasadam is not only food, it's also knowledge and, different, let's say, things to sustain us so that we can engage in devotional service. He's not going to ask us to take start to stop eating, for example, till we die. He's not going to ask some stupid thing like that. Fasting till death. Krishna in fact, he highly recommends eating prasadam to your full satisfaction every day. So prasadam is very important. Okay, so in this, I'm going to go back to chapter 2, text 39, where it says uh, in the purport, yoga involves controlling the sense. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting because he thought that by not killing relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom after conquering his cousins and brothers, the sons of Dhritarashtra. In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. What a beautiful phrase this is. At the sacrifice of wisdom and duty. In other words, everything Arjuna had learned from Krishna, and also the responsibilities he had to maintain Sanatan Dharma, he's sacrificing all of that because of mundane attachment to the bodies of his relatives. So Prabhupada explains it really nicely. He says, happiness derived by conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty.
What does exactly that mean, Maharaj? Even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty.
Well, wisdom means everything he learned in Krishna consciousness, and duty are all the things that he's supposed to follow as a dutiful disciple of Krishna. You see, so he learned so many things from Krishna, and he also acquired duties that he has to follow. He's giving all that up because of bodily attachment. Okay, so that's why he said happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. So wisdom is everything Arjuna has learned from Krishna, and duty is everything that he has promised to do. You see, just like you take initiation, you promise, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, and so forth. Those are duties. And a sacrifice of wisdom, well, wisdom is all the things that we have learned that leads to our doing regulated devotional service. Arjuna wants to forget about what he's obligated to do, and he wants to give up, the activities that he's supposed to do. The wisdom means the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, and duty means the activity of Krishna consciousness. He's giving up both of those. That doesn't make sense, right? Why did he take the time to learn all those things? It was to follow them. And here, because of his weakness of attachment to the bodies of his relatives, he's going to give up all those things that he worked so hard to attain. Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper. And he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they're individuals in the present, and they will continue to remain individuals in the future because all of us are individual souls eternally. We simply change our bodily dress in different manners, but actually we keep our individuality even after liberation from the bondage of material dress. All right, so Krishna is giving Arjuna a lot of lessons here. And okay, so we read, let's see, chapter 3, text 2.
3.
3, I'm sorry, text 3. So the Supreme Personality God has said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, meaning material, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. Okay. So in the second chapter, verse 39, the Lord explained two kinds of procedures, namely Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga or Buddha Yoga, meaning Krishna consciousness. In this verse, the Lord explains the same more clearly. Sankhya Yoga, or the analytical study of nature, of the nature of spirit and matter, is the subject matter for persons who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy. The other class of men work in Krishna consciousness, meaning they're engaged in devotional service, as it is explained in the 61st verse of the second chapter. The Lord has explained also in the 39th verse of the second chapter that by working by the principles of Buddha Yoga or Krishna consciousness, one can be relieved from the bonds of action, and furthermore, there is no flaw in the process. The same principle is more clearly explained in the 61st verse of the second chapter, that this Buddha Yoga, meaning Krishna consciousness, is to depend entirely on the Supreme, or more specifically on Krishna. And in this way, all the senses can be brought under control very easily. Therefore, both the yogas are interdependent as religion and philosophy. Religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. The ultimate goal is Krishna, because the philosophers who are also sincerely searching after the absolute truth come in the end to Krishna consciousness. This is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita. The whole purpose is to understand the real position of the self in relation to the super self. The indirect process is philosophical speculation, by which gradually one may come to the point of Krishna consciousness. And the other process is directly connecting with everything in Krishna consciousness. Of these two, the path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on purifying the senses by a philosophical process. Well, yeah, we're not sitting down like armchair philosophers. We're engaging practically in devotional service. Krishna consciousness is itself the purifying process. And by the direct method of devotional service, it is simultaneously easy and sublime. Well, that's what we all experience. You know, when I joined the Hare Krishna movement, right away I started doing service. I was, like Tamal Krishna Maharaj gave me a broom and he said, your service is to clean the prasadam room. It was like, I think it was like 10 o'clock at night. So I was like shocked when he told me that. So I had to go down and clean the prasadam room. And that was my service that I had to do every day. So in that way, I was engaged in devotional service. Right? That's the whole purpose of philosophy. It's to become convinced that the main way to be connected to Krishna is through devotional service. It's not an armchair philosopher's program. It's active uh, you know, engagement in devotional service with love and devotion. Of course, the love and devotion develop the more we engage voluntarily, right? So it says here, the indirect process is philosophical speculation by which gradually one may come, in other words, it says may come, that's not guaranteed, to the point of Krishna consciousness. And the other process is directly connecting with everything in Krishna consciousness. Of these two, the path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on purifying the senses by a philosophical process. See, that's a very important statement because it could take you many lifetimes by a philosophical process to purify the senses. Krishna consciousness is itself the purifying process. And by the direct method of devotional service, it is simultaneously easy and sublime. Those are very nice statements that are being made here in this purport. Okay, so religion without philosophy is sentiment or fanaticism. And philosophy without religion is mental speculation. We should remember this.
Yeah, that's a fantastic
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah.
That is so true, Maharaj.
Yeah.
In some of the other religions, like they have just rules,
Yeah.
but there is no basis for
There's
those
no
rules
philosophy.
to why those rules exist.
Yeah.
And that's why these people, they become fanatical in terms of implementing those.
They make mistakes. Religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism. There you are. Okay, yes.
When we say religion without philosophy, so does it mean, Maharaj, like people they follow some kind of custom from their parents or grandparents, but they don't know why exactly they are doing? Is that is it the same category?
That's one aspect of it, yes. Yeah. Well, religion without philosophy, what is it? It's going to be speculation, right? So, like you look at the fanatical Muslims. There's one Muslim guy. He purchased a woman for $25. Um, they invaded northern Iraq and stole all these women from a sect, and then he took advantage of her, and every time he had sex with her, after that he would pray to Allah to purify himself. So he knew what he's doing is wrong, but he thought by praying to Allah he'll get purified. See? So that doesn't work. It's the same thing. Someone commits sinful activity and they try and correct it by chanting Hare Krishna. Well, that's not right. It might be if you accidentally commit a sin, then you can chant Hare Krishna and it can be purified. But if you purposely commit sins and every time you try and purify it by chanting Hare Krishna, that is a violation against the holy name. Seventh principle of chanting Hare Krishna, commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting Hare Krishna. So they have the same thing in other religions. You know, you can't engage in these type of sinful activities and think that you can purify it by doing something like praying to God or something. He's not going to accept your prayer because you're knowingly sinning. If you unknowingly or accidentally sin, it can be excused. But if you purposely sin and then try and rectify it by chanting or whatever, that's a violation of the principles of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so when it says here that the whole process is to understand the real position of the self in relation to the super self. The indirect process is philosophical speculation, by which gradually one may come to the point of Krishna consciousness. See, there's no guarantee. And the other process is directly connecting with everything in Krishna consciousness. Of these two, the path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on purifying the senses by a philosophical process. Well, what's a philosophical process? You try, basically, it's using your own human, let's say, mind to understand things. But we have, we make mistakes. We're easily illusioned. We have imperfect senses, and we have a cheating propensity. So, because of those four defects, it's impossible to arrive at, perfect knowledge. Perfect knowledge is something that comes down from the spiritual world. It's not something that comes up from the material world. So as long as we have these four defects, we'll never be able to understand the truth properly. We might understand some things, but not everything. And eventually, as time goes on, everything deteriorates. That's another point. So that's why it's good to have a bona fide spiritual master and spiritual masters, so that you don't deviate. It's very easy to deviate. People will make up their own rules and regulations so that they can have sense gratification. And then, all hell breaks out then. It's like, I told you this before. At one point, the devotees tried to say that Prabhupada is God. And Prabhupada got really upset, he told them to stop it, And why? Because after Prabhupada disappears, they'll say they're God, So Prabhupada is very quick to stop that because he could see what it was leading to. So we have to be humble and meek as devotees and follow the rules and regulations strictly. Otherwise, it's very easy to deviate. Very, very easy. Okay. So of these two paths, the path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on purifying the senses by a philosophical process. So what is a philosophical process? Why don't you look that up, the term up, philosophical process. Basically, it's speculation. There's so many philosophies in the world. So which philosophical process are you going to choose? And basically, a philosophical. Let's see what it says. What does it mean by a philosophical process?
Process philosophy is a philosophical approach that focuses on the idea that change and process are the only real aspects of everyday life. It's also known as processism or ontology of becoming.
Ontology of what?
Ontology.
Ontology of
becoming.
Becoming. What is that? Ontology.
Is that the definite?
That's for philosophical process.
I checked on chat GPT, our friend, and here is the answer. A philosophical process refers to the systematic study by which philosophers analyze question and explore the fundamental concepts related to existence, knowledge, values, reason, and ethics. This process often involves several stages that help clarify concepts, challenge assumptions, and develop reasoned arguments. Here are the key components of philosophical process. Number one, questioning and problem identification. The philosophical process begins by identifying fundamental questions about reality, existence, morality, knowledge, or human experience. These questions may be broad, example, what is the nature of reality, or specific, example, what makes an action morally right. Then the second part of the process is conceptual analysis. Once a question is posed, philosophers engage in conceptual analysis, breaking down the key terms and concepts involved in to better understand their meaning and implications. For example, in the question, what is justice? The philosopher would analyze the concept of justice by exploring different definitions, historical perspectives, and its applications. Third part of the process, critical examination of assumptions. The philosophical process involves critically examining underlying assumptions and beliefs that may not have been previously questioned. This often requires philosophers to challenge commonly accepted views and explore alternative possibilities. Fourth part, fourth step is logical argumentation. A core part of the philosophy is constructing logical arguments to support or refute a position. Philosophers use deductive and inductive reasoning, ensuring that their
They
conclusions
use what? They use what?
deductive as well as inductive reasoning. Deductive,
Deductive, yeah,
yeah,
deductive.
deductive and inductive
Yes.
reasoning, ensuring that their conclusions follow from sound premises. They also critique the reasoning of others to highlight
Critique. Yeah.
the reasoning of others to highlight weaknesses or contradictions. The next part is dialectical method. Many philosophers employ the dialectical method, which involves dialogue or debate between two different or multiple different viewpoints. By engaging in a back and forth the exchange of ideas, philosophers refine their arguments and explore different perspectives, often through discussion or written critique. Next is reflection and synthesis. Philosophers often reflect on their findings and synthesize their arguments to form coherent theories or conclusions. This reflective process allows for deeper insights and integration of various philosophical viewpoints. And finally, applications of theories. Finally, philosophers often apply their conclusions to practical or ethical issues, bridging the gap between abstract thought and real world problems. This can involve applying moral theories to issues like justice, rights, or the environment, or using epistemological theories to question scientific knowledge or personal beliefs.
Okay, now this is like a big balloon. And now I'm going to put a pin into that balloon and blow it away. What they're not saying is that every human being has 4 defects. They make mistakes, they're easily illusioned, they have imperfect senses, and they have a cheating propensity. So they're not going to understand anything by using all those techniques. I mean, you won't come to the truth by using all those techniques. You'll come to different realizations, but not the absolute truth. Because the absolute truth is descending, it's not ascending. It comes down from Krishna, just like Brahma. He did not study anything. Krishna revealed the knowledge in his heart. So there was no studying, there were no books, nothing. In the same way, and when a person becomes a sincere devotee, obviously he's reading books but hearing lectures and also getting inspiration from Krishna directly from his heart. So these people are just depending on these material, let's say, techniques, but they're not taking into account the four, let's say, the four defects. That there's no one that's going to be correct every time. They're going to make mistakes. And we see that all the time. Even the smartest people, they make mistakes. So therefore, we should depend on knowledge that is coming down from Krishna instead of knowledge that we are building up by our own different philosophical or speculations. And that's why there's such a thing as parampara. Parampara is coming down because originally, whatever Krishna has spoken to Arjuna, then Arjuna spoke to Vyasa, and then Vyasa spoke to his disciples, that has come down from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the opposite is going up. There's going to be too many mistakes being made.
The modern books are all about, they say that they don't read any books. Everything is revealed to them.
Who says that? Oh.
Sadhguru. That he doesn't read books. No. I mean, they compare themselves to Brahma, and like as if Brahma got the knowledge from within.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sat under a tree or they were meditating and it revealed enlightenment.
Right.
So that is like, what do we consider that?
Okay, well, let's say that I don't know. I don't hear about Satguru anymore. Anyway, you hear about anything? You hear about him? No, I mean,
There is no ads in the YouTube, Maharaj.
No ads in the YouTube.
Earlier, they used to do a lot of ads.
Yeah.
Every time there is an ad about him.
Yeah.
But nowadays, there is no ad.
Why?
Maybe they're not spending money. Ads only come.
They're very rich. What are you talking about? He's got thousands of disciples.
Maybe there is a seasonality.
He fell sick also, Maharaj.
What?
He had a brain surgery.
Yeah, he's probably.
Oh, okay. Well, this is what happens to speculators. Something goes wrong.
There is a clot or something in the brain.
Yeah.
That he collapsed, and when he was doing some program, and then he had a surgery.
Right.
And maybe he's not doing programs now. That's why there's no ads.
That's what happens to people who speculate. Okay, there's this cartoon here. It's very interesting. It says, now hold on there, pal. There's two people speaking. One is an animal, and the other is a man who's got a knife in his hand. And the animal is saying, now hold on there, pal. It specifically says here, thou shalt not kill. In my opinion, that doesn't leave a whole lot of room for interpretation. Well, see, the one guy's got the knife ready to kill him. It's a lamb, right?
The lamb is speaking.
The lamb is speaking. Yeah. And now Leo Tolstoy, who was a great Russian philosopher, he says, thou shalt not kill does not apply to murder of one's own kind, meaning human beings only, but to all living beings. And this commandment was inscribed in the human breast long before it was proclaimed from Sinai. Leo Tolstoy. In other words, thou shalt not kill was from the beginning of time. That's what he's saying. It's not something that came out of, the Jews, you know.
Hmm.
But see, this is a great this guy, that poor little lamb. He said, "Hey, now wait a minute, you know, hold on there, pal. It specifically says here, thou shalt not kill. In my opinion, that doesn't leave a whole lot of room for interpretation." Very nice, very nice. But that's the whole point. Everyone's trying to make room for interpretation, their own interpretation. You know? And it should not be like that. You have to get knowledge from superior, let's say, devotees or gurus. Right? Now, when a guru is a fake, what happens? He has a brain uh, aneurysm, just like our friend Sadhguru, right? Something happens to them because they're they're violating their position as a real guru. They're misleading people. So all these misleaders, something happens to them. You know, like the other one, the nonsense. He has to live on an island off the in South America. Yeah, and why? Because they're violating the rules of Krishna consciousness, and they're pretending to be authorities, but actually they're just talking nonsense. You know, now massive people can't figure out they're talking nonsense. Yeah, but they'll find out eventually because that type of guru, and there's been many of them. You know, sometimes, like for example, there was a devotee who was a guru, and he deviated really seriously, and he started having sex with his disciples. This is in ISKCON, and he had sex with another devotee's wife, and both the wife and the husband were disciples of him, right? And then he had sex with the wife, the guru. And what happened? The husband on the Vyasa Puja day of the guru was dancing, and he came behind the guru, took a knife and cut his head off. In ISKCON, yes, he cut his head off. He was so upset, you know. That's what happens when you commit really sinful activities in the name of, oh, we're all devotees and blah blah blah. A lot of things have happened in ISKCON. You don't know all the history, but yeah, he got his head cut off, and he was his guru. It was his guru, but the guru really, did really bad things, So, and this was on Vyasa Puja day of the guru. And he came dancing around, and then he was behind him, and he just took the knife and cut his head off. Serious. Serious. Being a guru is a serious thing. If you start playing games like that, you can definitely be sure, you'll have an aneurysm in the brain, like a Sadhguru, or you get your head cut off, or you have a heart attack or something. You're not gonna last very long by misleading people. Yeah. Okay. So, any other questions? We went from this purport to getting heads cut off. Well, so religion without philosophy is sentimental or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. So that's our takeaway today.
Any questions online? Okay. No questions. We'll end the session now.
No questions?
Yeah, questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'll see you 11 hours. Is it 11 and a half hours or 11 hours?
Actually,
It's a-
less than 11 because we start in the morning at 6:30. 7:47 now.
Oh,
So it's,
okay.
So 10 hours and 45 minutes from now.
10 hours and 45 minutes. Okay. Haribol, Haribol. Thank you very much. All glories to Shiva Prabhupada ki jai.